Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. Welcome to Queen City Toastmasters. Today, we have a great meeting. We have a great lineup of speakers and volunteers. I will be your presiding officer, and also I'm starting as the Sergeant at Arms. So a few things before we start the meeting. For those who have been here or are here for the first time, the bathrooms are here at the back from this door. There are another one here on this side. We can use ladies on the left and gentlemen on the right-hand side. There's another one also in the back. As part of what we do on a daily basis, we like to introduce our guests, and I would like to call now our VP of Membership, Toastmaster Colin Stiefler, to help me with the introduction of the guests for today.
Thank you very much, Elvis. Good evening, Queen City. All right, I like that energy to start a meeting. It's a pleasure to see so many new faces in here tonight. Thank you so much for coming out to the club. As Elvis said, we have a custom here at Queen City Toastmasters where we begin every meeting by asking our guests to introduce themselves and just to share what brought them out tonight or how they found Queen City Toastmasters, really anything you like. So we'll start on this side of the room and we'll work our way around. And then at the end of the meeting, we'll ask you for your thoughts and we'll start in the reverse.
Hey, I'm Andrew Yerger. I decided to join today because I'm starting to speak a lot more at work and would like to get better at it, not be so freaked out whenever I do it.
Hi, I'm Lauren Lowry. I decided to join because I want to learn a new skill. I want to meet some new people and try to better myself.
Hey everybody, my name is Anosi. This is my fourth time here. I haven't become a member yet, but I'm planning on it. But I'm just here to get better at public speaking and articulating my thoughts.
Thank you very much. Just real quick, Elvis, it looks like we're not logged into Zoom, and thus the microphone may not be necessary. Are we trying to log into Zoom? Okay. Understood. Understood. Yes. Thank you very much, Jamie. So if any of you might have noticed, just take a brief detour from the introductions. This microphone doesn't sound like it's projecting any sound from the speakers in the front. That's because it's for our online attendees. We do typically have hybrid meetings, and we also, through Zoom, record our meetings. So please be mindful of speaking into the microphone and projecting, even though it seems like the microphone would be doing the projecting for you.
Hello, I'm Sunithia, and I am here tonight, my first time, just to get a little more comfortable speaking in front of people.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Weaver. I am here tonight because the CEO of my company introduced us to Toastmasters. He just learned about it, and I am just moving into a sales role, and I would love to get better at speaking in front of people as well. This is my...
Hi, everybody. My name is Kyle. To echo what Julie said, yeah, we learned about this group last week from our CEO, highly recommended it. So, we looked up the closest one. I'm here tonight. This is my first time, but just to pick up a couple new tools to put in the tool belt and, just to add to my craft. So thank you for having me tonight.
Hey everybody, my name is Keandra. I've done a few virtual Toastmaster groups, but I need to kind of step out of my comfort zone. So this will help me with my public speaking and help me projecting my voice. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dio, Dio Veris, but I go by Dio because it's a long name. And I am a speaker, I guess, but I want to get better. So I'm an artist. I speak a lot. I have had a podcast and I do hosting at church. And so I just want to speak more confidently and I don't know, learn more.
Thank you very much. Looks like we just had one more guest walk in. In the meantime, is the attendee online, Elvis, a guest or is it a member? Oh, it's David. Okay. All right. Ignore David then. All right. Sorry to ambush you right as you walked in, but we usually start our meetings by asking our guests to introduce themselves and what brought you out tonight.
Hi, everyone. I'm the one who's late. My name is Natalia, and it's my first time here. And Andrea was very sweet to help me being lost in the parking lot, trying to figure out how to get in here. I'm here, I want to be more confident in telling stories. So hopefully by getting out and terrifyingly facing my demons and telling whatever we're talking about will help me kind of be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And that seat's available right here. All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. Just to put you at ease, this is a judgment-free space. Everyone is here to get better. No one is here to judge or harshly critique anyone, though critiques, constructive critiques are such an essential part of Toastmasters and a phenomenal reason why these clubs are so wildly effective at breeding phenomenal speakers. So thanks for coming out tonight. I'll be around after the meeting if you have any questions. Please make mental notes. Please feel free to harshly critique anything that we do that could make your experience better. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Elvis to lead us into the meeting.
Thank you, Colin. We started off with some technical glitches, but luckily we are able to communicate. They are able to hear us, the ones online. And fortunately, there's only one person that has joined and is one of our members. So we are in a safe zone today. I would like to proceed with the next part of our meeting, which is the introduction of the volunteer member who is going to lead us through this meeting tonight. It's called the Toastmaster of the Day. He is a very seasoned Toastmaster who has been with us for several years. He inspires every time that he speaks. And I'm very glad to have him as our Toastmaster of the Day tonight. Please help me welcome Toastmaster John Cappello.
Okay, thank you, Toastmaster Elvis, and good evening, Queen City, and all the future Toastmasters I see in this room. Well done, guests. I think you have come to the right place. Now, I am, in fact, going to be your Toastmaster of the day. I will be leading, effectively moderating, and leading us through this journey tonight. We have three distinct sections. We have a prepared speaking session. We have a table topic / impromptu speaking session. And then we have finally the critiques or our evaluation period portion of the meeting that Colin alluded to. I won't be up here alone. I'll have some of my fellow Toastmasters that are going to serve in supporting roles to also help us through to make tonight a successful meeting. But before I do, I'm actually going to introduce tonight's theme, which is one of the privileges you have being the Toastmaster of the day. Before I get into it, I want to share with you a quick story. In the south side of Chicago, a 100% Italian family. And my father was extremely strict. He was a disciplinarian. He was a dean of students. And as I approached my teenage years, I got to be young and rebellious, just like any other teenager. And he'd start grilling me when the weekends would come up. Where are you going? What are you going to be doing? When are you coming home? And most importantly, who are you going to be with? You see, my father was particularly sensitive on this last point because if I wasn't hanging out with who he deemed to be a good kid, he might not let me go. So one time I challenged him on this. Dad, why do you always care with whom I am hanging out? And he told me the following, and I'll never forget it. He said, son, like it or not, you and I are a function of the people and the company we keep. If you run with the wrong crowd, you're taking the express train to Regretsville. But if you surround yourself with high quality character, you will lead a high quality life. Now, as a teenager, it kind of sailed over my head. But as I've become seasoned in my years, I've come to realize that there was no greater truth that was spoken that night. And tonight, I'm going to attempt to prove to you, take it one step further, that you, me, all of us are a function of the 3 to 5 people with which we have the closest and deepest relationships. The people I am referring to, the group, that special group, is your inner circle of influence. I have 3 goals tonight. 1 is to better explain what the inner circle of influence is. Number 2 is to talk about the importance of who you allow to be in your inner circle, why it's important. And finally, 3, perhaps more controversial, when you might need to tweak the starting lineup, not to use a sports analogy. But as promised, before we get into that topic, I want to go ahead and introduce my fellow Toastmasters who are going to help make tonight a successful meeting. And first up, to provide us an inspirational message, to kick us off right, please help me welcome Toastmaster Jacqueline Yurka.
Thank you, Toastmaster John. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about the importance of choosing your inner circle of influence wisely. As the saying goes, we can't change the people around us, but we can change the people we surround ourselves with. That means that we, you and I, have the power to choose who we spend our time with and who was the biggest impact in our lives. The people in our inner circle can either lift us up or drag us down. They can help us to be our best selves, or they can hold us back. That's why it's so important to choose our inner circle wisely. We want to surround ourselves with people who are positive, supportive, and who challenge us to be better. We want to avoid people who are negative, draining, and who bring us down. The people in our inner circle have a big impact on our happiness, our success, and our overall well-being. So let's make sure we're choosing our inner circle wisely. Here are a few tips for choosing your inner circle wisely. Be intentional about who you spend your time with. That's important as we get older, right? Pay attention to the energy of the people around you. Be aware of your own values and goals. And don't be afraid to let go of relationships that are no longer serving you. That's a hard one for me, but I have been practicing it recently. Choosing your inner circle wisely is one of the most important things you can do to live a happy and successful life. So take time to reflect on the people in your life. Are they the kind of people who make you feel good about yourself and who support your goals? If not, it might be time to take some changes into account. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacqueline. She stole some of my thunder, but we're going to reiterate that point. You're going to leave here knowing that the people who you surround yourself with are in fact one of the most critical decisions you will make. Now, next up, helping us be mindful of our filler words, please help me welcome, you already heard from him earlier, Toastmaster Elvis Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I have a double role today. I'm also the grammarian. As a grammarian, I have two responsibilities today. The first one is to pay attention to the use of appropriate language. And with that, pay attention also to the use of filler words. Those words such as, right? Like those which we can always eliminate from our speech because they don't add any meaning. And so by making a good effort to reduce those filler words, we can also present ourselves as more confident and, as you see, I'm trying not to use filler words. So the whole point is we have to be conscious of not using the filler words, and that would make us appear and feel more confident when we are speaking. Also, another part of the role is to present the word of the day. And the word of the day is discernment. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the definition of discernment is the quality of being able to grasp and comprehend what is obscure. In simple terms, it means the ability to judge well. And in the context of our theme today, it means the ability to judge well when choosing your associations. Some synonyms for discernment are judgment, taste, discrimination, refinement, and cultivation. Here's an example of discernment in a sentence. She had the discernment to realize that the people she was associating with were not good for her. Another example is the company's success was due in part to the discernment of its CEO in choosing the right employees. Another one is the discernment to know when someone is a true friend. I would like to encourage all of you who speak tonight to use the word of the day. If you do, I will give you a big shout out at the end of my report tonight. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Elvis. And finally, here at Toastmasters, we like to be mindful of your time. Your time is precious. And to help us keep on time, please help me welcome Toastmaster Sebastian, who will be serving as our timer this evening.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Sebastian. As John just mentioned, today I will be our timer. So it'll be my job to keep track of the amount of time that everyone speaks for. So we'll have 3 sections during which folks will be speaking. The first is the planned speeches. The second is table topics, during which volunteers, or rather guests, can volunteer to come up here and answer an impromptu question. And then the third section is evaluators, who will come up to evaluate those who gave a planned speech. Each of these groups of speakers have an allotted time during which they're meant to speak for. So speeches, 5 to 7 minutes, table topics, 1 to 2 minutes, and then evaluators, 2 to 3 minutes. Once a speaker hits the start of their allotted time, I will hold up a green envelope. Once they make it halfway through that allotted time, I will hold up a yellow envelope to let you know you have about 30 seconds to a minute left. And once you've hit the end of your allotted time, I will give you the red envelope. And then I will also give a readout after each section. I believe this is my first time doing it, so bear with me. But I think I'll give a readout as far as how everyone did. So yeah, that's my role tonight.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sebastian. Okay. Let's dive into this inner circle of influence topic, shall we, before we move on to our prepared speech tonight. What is it? I received a book from one of the Toastmasters in this club, and the book was called The Power of One More. It was by Ed Milet, who's an inspirational speaker. I strongly encourage anyone to read it. I might reference him a few times through the course of tonight. He has one chapter that he calls One More Association, of how you choose your peers. And he uses this concept, a metaphor, to describe your interconnectivity with the universe, all your relationships. And he uses a metaphor of a dartboard, a series of concentric circles, whereby the outer ring he describes as your random encounters, your random interactions. You're walking down the street, you nod or smile, maybe say hi. Someone passes by, some random person in the coffee shop, you might do the same. But just as soon as they come in, they are gone and out of your life. It's pretty obvious that this group does not have much impact on your life trajectory. But as you move closer in on this dartboard, the circumference of the circles start to shrink. And the middle circle also shrinks in the amount of people, but the depth of the relationships starts to increase. Now, that middle circle metaphorically might represent your acquaintances. These are people you might see more randomly, but also on a more frequent basis as well. Perhaps the butcher that you see at Harris Teeter, your mailman, Betty from accounting, who you run into in the break room from time to time. You might share pleasantries and talk about the weather, but you're not really diving into a deep, revealing conversation. It's probably less likely that they will impact your life, but they could. Potentially, you might receive some quality of life as a result of interacting with them on a daily basis or a frequent basis. As you get closer to the center, if you haven't figured it out by now, what is the center? The bullseye. It's you. And those really small circles that are close to, that encapsulate the center is your inner circle of influence. These are the people who have a direct and profound impact on your life. They impact how you think. They impact what goals you set for yourself, some of your behaviors, your habits. And it's this circle of influence, just by nature of its proximity to the core of you, that impacts you so greatly. And who should fall in the circle? The most obvious, you think of your immediate family, close friends, a mentor, maybe even a spiritual guy, maybe a combination of all three. Now, your next logical question should be, how do I choose who goes in my inner circle? And I'm going to get to that. But before I do, we're going to move on to the main event, our prepared speeches. Now, we only have one prepared speech tonight, but this person is a veteran. He's an officer in the club. You've already seen and heard from him tonight. And he has a clever and witty delivery style. And he's up here, it seems like every other week. And I think if he maintains this level of hustle, sky's the limit for this young budding star. Giving his level 2 speech in Effective Coaching Pathway, a speech entitled Poop Like a Champion, which could be my favorite speech title of all time. And something that if I could do every morning, it's already starting off as a good day. Please help me welcome Toastmaster Colin Stifler.
Thank you very much, Sean. Setting me up for failure there with those kind words. I certainly wish for you and everyone to have an excellent morning glory every morning. David, I just want to say we've got David Jones up there sipping a cocktail from the Bahamas. David, you're looking like you're doing well. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, future Toastmasters, and honored guests. Let's talk about poop, pee, dishwater, bathwater, water left over from manufacturing processes, and anything else that goes down a toilet or drain. Excited? I bet you are. If any of you were here a couple weeks ago, you may recall that I revealed to you that I am an employee of Charlotte Water, which is the city of Charlotte's water, wastewater, and stormwater utility. I love everything to do with water, and yes, that also includes poop water. Tonight, I bring to you a second speech in a trilogy of water-related speeches. The first was about water treatment, and this one, as the title would suggest, is about wastewater. And specifically, I'd like to share 3 things with you all tonight. Number 1, why modern wastewater treatment is perhaps the most defining innovation of human history. I am not exaggerating here, people. I mean that. Number 2, how wastewater is treated. We'll keep that conversation at a high level, and it can be a technical topic. And number 3, why our behaviors are so vitally important for making wastewater treatment effective, environmentally safe, and for keeping our world clean. So let's dive into this. Why is wastewater treatment so important? Wastewater treatment, until about 100 years ago, involved open air channels of sewage going down the street in front of your home and into the nearest body of water. The body of water you were most likely to draw drinking water from in a bucket. Unsurprisingly, in those days, life was brutal and short, disease-ridden, and just generally smelly and gross. Something changed, though. We got smarter. We figured out there's a better way to do this. There's a more hygienic way to live in society. And we decided to put that poop and pee and everything else in pipes that went underground instead of above ground. And they would go to a treatment plant. They'd be effectively cleaned and returned to the environment in a safe manner. And when we did that, life expectancy in our country basically doubled. Diseases were drastically reduced. Consider this. Today in Mecklenburg County, Charlotte Water treats wastewater from over 1 million people and 10,000 businesses. We return that clean water to our streams and rivers, and we don't destroy the environment in the process. And then we draw water from those same streams and rivers to create drinking water, and no one gets typhoid or dysentery. It is a modern miracle, people. We are truly the envy of our ancestors for this wonderful human invention. Now, is it gross to think about? Sure, it is. The beauty, though, is that you're not forced to think about it very often because you don't see it. So think about your ancestors more than 100 years ago and the envy and jealousy that they would feel now, knowing the wonderful hygienic world that we live in. There's also another practical reason why wastewater treatment is so important, and that is because we take a lot of water out of our lakes, rivers, and streams. So much. On average here in Charlotte, we treat 110 million gallons of raw water a day for drinking water. However, there's other communities that depend on our shared water resources. So we draw water from the Catawba River watershed here in Charlotte, but that river extends down into South Carolina and they need the water too. And if we don't return some of that 110 million gallons every day, there might not be enough to go around down south. So on average, we return 90 million gallons a day in clean water back to the river basin. Now, if any of you have done some quick math and assessed that there's a 20 million gallon deficit, the reason for that is we use some of that water for irrigation. And that water sinks into the ground and returns to the water table that way. And over time, might make its way back to the river or stream. But by and large, the majority of the water we use goes down a toilet, goes down a drain. So that is why water is so important. Let's talk about how wastewater is treated. If any of you recall at a high level, the water treatment process that I described in my last speech, you may remember that it consists of two parts, really. Number one, the biggest part is time. And the second part is a little bit of chemistry. Well, wastewater treatment can be viewed similarly, simply. Not sure if that's the right way to put it. It can be viewed equally simply. And that is, it also requires time. Time is the most important factor. But there's a lot of biology that's also required too. We've got to digest some of this organic matter. So wastewater treatment plants are designed to capture water and slow it down, hold on to it for as long as possible, essentially 24 hours. And in the process, gravity acts on those little poop particles in the water and allows them to settle down to the bottom, and it leaves cleaner water on top. Now, those poop particles are put off into a separate part of the process. They're slightly dehydrated and sold as fertilizer. And then we use some of that money from the sale of that fertilizer to subsidize the cost of our operation so that you can pay less for your water and wastewater. The clean water that's left, that goes into another basin where billions of microbiology units, cells, organisms, I'm not a very scientific guy despite working at a water utility, consume some of that organic material, and critically, nitrogen and phosphorus, which exists in abundance in the human gut, but fishies don't like nitrogen and phosphorus. So we got to get that out. Once we do that, we return the water clean, approximately 10 times cleaner than the water in the river and stream, back to our local watershed. So that's how wastewater is treated, in case you were dying to know. How can you do your part to make sure that our wastewater system and process is functioning as it should? And I have a question for you. Who here uses flushable wipes? Does anyone here use flushable wipes? I have a plea for you all. Please do not use flushable wipes. Pipes hate wipes. They do not break down. They cause blockages in the pipes. And when a pipe is blocked and water cannot flow the direction that it needs to, it starts flowing the other way. And the other way is back into your house, up your toilet, and onto your bathroom floor. Pretty sure none of you want that. Pretty sure none of your neighbors want that. So please throw the wipes away. In fact, the water industry has tried suing the flushable wipe industry to say, please do not call these flushable. They should not be flushed. That suit was unsuccessful because in the most literal sense, they can be flushed. You can put them in the toilet, flush the toilet, and it will go down. That's like calling a shoe microwavable. Just because I can put it in the microwave and start the microwave doesn't mean I should. All right, so please, please, please do away with the flushable wipes or just throw them out, keep a little garbage can next to your toilet. The next thing that you can do to be a good steward of the local wastewater system is not to pour fats, oils, and greases down your sink drain. I did that for a long time until I started working in this industry, but it is also damaging. It causes blockages in the pipes. It's colder underground, so when the oils go underground, they tend to solidify, they congeal, which means they solidify and expand, and they create blockages in the pipes, sends the poop back the wrong way, sends it back into your house, sends it up the manholes in your street, starts gurgling out in the street. You've got kids on tricycles out in the street. They're walking back into your house, trudging it everywhere. Don't do it. Don't do it. So please just wait for that fat, oil, and grease in your pan to cool down. Wipe it up with a paper towel, pour it into a paper coffee cup from your morning latte, and throw it away in the garbage. Sound good? All right. Thank you very much. So that's about it tonight. 3 things about wastewater. Number one, it's incredibly important. It's drastically changed the way that we live for the better. Number 2, at a high level, it's just really about time and biology. It's not very complex. The most complex part of it is all of the engineering, the pipes, more than 4,000 miles of pipes in the ground that we use to collect it from your homes, take it to the plants, return it to the environment. And then finally, there's things that we shouldn't do despite our best intentions, despite labeling on packaging, namely flushing wipes and pouring fats, oils, and greases down the drain. So next time you sit upon the porcelain throne, lavish in the wonder that is modern wastewater treatment, it's truly a great time to be alive, and poop like a champion. Thank you very much.
All righty. Thank you, Colin. Clever, witty, funny as always. think my biggest takeaway is there's nothing worse than backed up pipes. Okay, we're going to touch back upon that inner circle topic. We've talked about what it is, more fully defined it. Now, who should be in this circle? Why is it important? Now, the default answer, you heard me, who belongs in that inner circle, and typically it is immediate family. But for the purposes of our discussion tonight, I am going to exclude them. Why? Because we can't control our DNA, can't control who your parents were, your family tree, your heritage, your background. It just is what it is. And I don't even want to get into dysfunctional or toxic family relationships. I leave that to the experts, the therapists. Rather, I'd like to focus on the people who you physically choose, mentally, a concerted effort to choose to hang out with, your selective peer, your association, your mentor, your spiritual guide. Now, I talked about earlier how important that small cohort is, the inner circle, and how they can influence you. But let's take it back up a step. Why is it that we as humans tend to, or I should say, I would argue that it's human nature that really what drives its importance, because we tend to reflect or mirror what our surroundings or the people who we spend the most time with. I'll give you a couple basic examples. I moved here from Chicago. I used to have a Chicago accent. 2 weeks ago, I used the word y'all. What is that saying? I'm conforming to the South society, the dialect. I guess it's all the neighbors I spend so much time with. I swear I was never going to do that. Or maybe in sports, I'm a bad golfer, but something happens when I golf with people who are good. Somehow it raises the level of my own game. I emulate their focus. And then you can't not mention battery chargers and battery drainers. It's a concept I've always talked about. What happens when you spend a lot of time with people with positive attitudes? You get positive attitude. It becomes contagious. You become inspired by them. And it's just a function of why human nature works. So therefore, knowing how much this inner circle can impact your life, and knowing that it's going to be human nature that you will likely adopt a lot of the habits of the people that are in this circle, that's why it's so important. Now, Ed Milet gives a couple questions that you should ask yourself, and actually, Jacqueline touched upon a few. Obviously, the first thing you want to concern yourself with, or should help you choose that association, do you have a connection? Do you have a mutual interest? But then you got to ask some deeper questions. Questions like, do they inspire you? Are they a positive thinker? Are they goal-driven? Are they above ethical reproach? Love that one. Do they maintain a high level of integrity? Do they demonstrate emotional intelligence? Do they make rational, sound decisions without impulse? Are they spiritually fulfilled? Do they constantly seek to improve mind, body, and soul? And basically, are they good people? Now, not everyone's going to tick this box or all those boxes. I know I don't. But if you make a concerted effort, generally speaking, to raise the standard of the people you allow in that inner circle, it is going to inherently raise the standard for your own things you hold yourself accountable for. If you recall, I mentioned you're the function of the average of the 3 to 5 people you spend the most time with and are most connected to. If you'd like to raise that average, it's simple. Raise the quality of the inputs. The bottom line is, folks, choose your associations wisely. Now, speaking of choices, I'd like to once again commend all the guests who chose to be here tonight. You've chosen wisely. And I could tell when you walked in, you're feeling kind of jealous. All of the fellow Toastmasters, or many of them, had roles that they could come up here and practice, come and do what they came here to do. So we're going to give you an opportunity The next section is our table topic section, and it's impromptu speaking. It will allow Toastmasters and guests a chance to participate. And to lead us in that effort, please help me welcome Toastmaster Bill Fountain.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Well, good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. I'm Bill Fountain. It's my honor to be the table topic manager or Toastmaster today. I chose for my table topic 9/11. And you may say, why in the world would you pick 9/11? Well, getting back to this inner circle is that my son-in-law recommended to one of the chief people who are on this is the group called the Firefighter Stephen Coakley Foundation. And every year they do a Flags of Remembrance downtown Charlotte for the memory of the 9/11 tragic event. And so that is why that inner circle made me discern to be 8. That's for me. So I volunteered for this. So I wanted to get your reactions, some of the things that I can discern from you and your responses about the 9/11 tragic event. It happened like this was 22 years ago this happened. And so a lot of the folks may have been pretty young at that time, but it was something that was definitely fixed into my mind because my wife and I were visiting Ireland at the time of the attack. And the bus driver must have received a telephone call because he said, we got to go to a local pub where they had a television. And so we went there, and to our dismay, we saw the videos of the 2 planes crashing into the Twin Towers. And of course, there was one left, hit to the Pentagon, and one that crashed into Pennsylvania in a field. And there were like 3,000 people, around approximately 3,000 people who died during that event. And many other people suffered because of that. And of course, our lives have really changed as a result of that because it used to be easy to go fly an airline, and it's no longer that way. In fact, the Department of Homeland Security came about as a legacy, a part of the 9/11 event, and they employ 260,000 people. And of course, has a layer of security that we see on all the airports. There's a protocol about getting in and out of the airport. And of course, through the Patriot Act, there's also the government has allowed agencies to be able to look more into the domestic surveillance. But some of the events out of that event was that many people returned to their faith. People mourned the victims. And a lot of people also displayed patriotism, where they, put a flag on their porch or on their car antennas. And again, they're trying to show that. And unfortunately, at the same time, there was anger against anybody who was a Muslim or Arab descent. There was an attacks on them, and there's like 600 incidents of that happened about the 10 days after that. So that's the table topic we're going to talk about is 9/11 today. And as the table topic, what I will do is invite someone to come up, a volunteer to come up, and you'll be asked a question. And there's a 1 to 2 minute impromptu speech. So this is an opportunity for you, like we said at the very beginning, you learn from this. It's an all positive event, even though sometimes we may utter these words that Elvis was talking about. So I'd like to invite someone to come up who want to volunteer to make one of their an easy question for something. It's got to be doing something a little bit about 9/11. Any volunteer? Anybody? Anybody? Yes, yes, please. Our new person. Excellent. Natalia, Bill Fountain. Thank you so much. Okay, your question is, what was your reaction to 9/11? What was your reaction to 9/11?
Thank you. I am Ukrainian, so I was in Ukraine during 9/11, and I still remember that day. I was quite young at that time, and my mom called both me and my younger sister, she's 2 years younger, to our living room. We all three of us sit down on a couch, and we were just astonished about what was happening. It seemed like a movie. And to me, at that age, it felt like a movie. My reaction was, I'm watching this on TV. It's kind of like some sort of the action fictions about to like unfolding in there. Airplanes hitting the skyscrapers. You see people frantically running on the streets. It was quite shocking when my mom told me this is actually happening. And her near and dear friend, who they went to college together, lived in the area nearby where the buildings have been crashing down. And I remember the sense of some sort of the terror, even though my mom always have been composed and she always had her cool, calm, and collected appearance. But in that moment, I saw that my mom was scared. That to me really became imprint on my heart. Something actually terrifies my mother. And that what I remember like a first impression about 9/11.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. And I have another volunteer. Please come on up. I don't remember your name. Dio. Yes. Yeah. Hold on, Dio. Okay. Why would some people display patriotism after the attack on the U.S.?
All right. Okay. Thank you. I was hoping to get a question like hers. Okay. That's a good question. And I can only think about where I come from. I'm from the Virgin Islands. Funny thing, I was in New York. I was 11 years old when this happened. And I think people are proud. People are proud, regardless of the emotion that this thing could bring on, whatever this happened, 9/11, or whatever happens in your country where you're from. I want to make it relatable. But I think that people are proud. I think it's an emotional thing. You know, I people want to relate to one another. So I just believe that the best way you can express that, sometimes silently, is by patriotism, right? The hanging up of the flags. I don't have to say much. I'm American. Y'all know what happened, right? Or me being from the Virgin Islands, you know, 3 Black women burnt down a cotton field because they were tired of working. And we proudly talk about that, right? It wasn't a good situation. It wasn't something that everyone wants to come from. But I think that if you can stand tall and you can tell people where you're from, like, it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. So I think I'm gonna stop there. Thank you so much.
Do I have a third? Yes, please, sir. You look like you're the right guy to ask this question to. Here you go. I'm Bill Fountain. What's yours?
Martin.
Martin. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Why would firefighters rush into the burning Twin Towers? Were they crazy to risk their lives for strangers? Why would they rush in there to those burning towers to save people? Wouldn't they, risk their lives for strangers?
Sure. So I'll repeat the question. Question was, why would firefighters run into a building that's on fire to save other people while risking their lives? So to answer this question, I think it goes back to, why do firefighters become firefighters in the first place? And obviously there's the money, the benefits, stuff like that associated with it. But I think a lot of firefighters, policemen, frontline service workers do what they do because of the purpose they feel that they associate with protecting the community. So as a firefighter, I'm not one myself, but as a firefighter, from what I understand, their mission and their purpose is to save people from buildings that are on fire. So obviously they're fulfilling their purpose, and they feel by sacrificing and risking their lives, they're serving their purpose. So I guess it's a spiritual thing. And I guess a second purpose, or a second part to that, is obviously these firefighters, they've been training for years on how to deal and save people in these fires, these burning buildings. So they're the best equipped, they're experts at saving people in buildings that are on fire, obviously. So they're the best. They're gonna save the most amount of people that are obviously in that building compared to regular civilian. So just like for example, we'd call in Colin to talk about our water. We'd call in a firefighter to obviously go in and save people that are in a building on fire. So thank you.
Well, you look like a firefighter. That's great. Thank you. All right, I need someone else. Number 4. Any volunteers? Oh, yes, ma'am. Please. Here you go. Was it Julie?
Yeah,
Julie.
Julie.
Go, Val. Okay.
Nice to meet you.
All right, here we go. Number 4. What do you think people? No, here we go. Why do you think people turn to faith going back to church?
Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay, so the question was, why do you think that people turn to faith and going back to church in this tragedy? I would say that I think that occurred because that's a natural progression when we don't know what else to say. Why did this happen? Why has this gone on? Why has this atrocious thing happened to our country, to our people, to our friends, our family? And whether you or I are spiritual, I think that in the face of that, you think maybe there is no reason. Maybe someone has a reason. Maybe I need to go beyond rational thought on this earth and everything I see and think there's something bigger. And that sometimes is the only way to justify something that doesn't seem to track with any sort of rationale or any reasoning. When it's that emotional and that tragic and that horrible, I think that there are times that we consider there's a bigger plan, there's something else at work here, and also people find a lot of strength in that. So this is a time when people are feeling very, hopeless or helpless, and that faith can ground them in something that they can believe in.
Yeah, and in fact, just a hitchhike on what she was saying brings back to John's whole idea about this circle, because you get that there's another circle there you're doing there with the faith of the church. All right, I need a 5th one. Anybody volunteer? Oh, here we go. Please, Leon. All right. Shake hands first.
Say the question into the mic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the question in the mic. That's right. So, what is patriotism, and how do people express it? What is patriotism, and how do people express it?
Thank you for the question. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honorable guests. When I think of patriotism, I think of many different things, but for one thing that I think of is having a sense of identity. In the midst of tragedies, a lot of people find a sense of identity in tragedy. See, suffering and joy is just part of human life. There are things that some would say are good situations, some would say that there's some that are bad. But in the midst of that, it gives you an opportunity to learn a little bit more about your character. It deepens your ability to feel and relate with others, or sometimes it just leaves you in a complete confusion and you don't quite know what to do in those moments. And then one of the key interesting facts and in some of these moments is making sure that the things that we're doing are in alignment with our values. And when we have symbols, ideas, speeches, the ones that most connect with us are the ones that most speak to our values. And people love to rally behind that because, in a sense, on the reasons why maybe a firefighter might become a firefighter is because it's a sense of duty. You find a sense of duty in the identities that you choose to relate yourself to, as well as a sense of duty to those that you also relate to, such as your inner circle, your closest 5 friends. You feel a sense of duty to them because they share the same values, or you might just find them funny, whatever it may be. But in terms of looking at patriotism, understanding your sense of identity and the relationship that you have with it to the symbols around you. Table topic master.
Thank you. All right, we got one more. Any volunteer? Please. This is a little bit of philosophical, but it won't be that hard. All right, here we go. Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. Assuming that Al-Qaeda used the attack to create a jihad where they would lead the Muslim world fighting the U.S. in Muslim lands, what kind of recourse did the U.S. have because of this attack? What kind of recourse did the U.S. have because of this attack?
Assuming Al Qaeda used the attack to create, okay. What did you say? That is the last question. That's okay. Can we elaborate on that, like dissect it a little bit? Is that possible?
What do you think the U.S. What should have the U.S. done after having had this attack?
What they should, okay. What kind of recourse did the U.S. have? All right. Challenging question, but challenges help you grow, right? So what kind of recourse did the U.S. have? So the United States, I think you mentioned a lot of good points in your questions. We showed patriotism by, joining forces and through faith and just embracing all of our similarities, which is that we are this one country and we want to succeed together, right? So I think we did that in many different ways. I think we honored the people that have unfortunately passed. I think we all had the mission to make sure that those people knew that was not right. I'm trying to be a little politically correct here, right? I do have some thoughts on that though. But overall, we did what we did to make sure that, this doesn't happen again, that we come out stronger than ever, and that going forward, again, that this does not happen again. And you know what? I'll never be Miss America because that was not the best answer, but I do truly feel we liked it. That's it. Thank you.
All right, well, that ends the table topics. And over to John. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Toastmaster Bill, and thank you again to all the participants. Way to seize the moment. That's why you're here. Learn and to grow. One more time, I'm going to touch upon this inner circle thing. Okay. I've talked about what it is. I've talked about who should be in it and why it's important. And I finally want to touch upon the third goal of mine tonight, and that's that controversial part. Jacqueline alluded this to, as well, the hardest part about determining when you have an issue and someone is no longer serving your best interests. And I want to go back to the dartboard analogy. Remember, I described all those different circles, the concentric circles, each with different circumferences to be metaphorically represent all the different levels of connection in your life. And in no way did I say that any of that was permanent. In fact, it's in constant motion. People are moving away from your bullseye as well as closer to your bullseye. Why? Because the universe is in constant motion. People are changing. You are changing. Circumstances change. Geographics change. Your values change. So there's constantly, you need to make this discerning effort to distinguish when you need to remove someone from your inner circle if they are not serving your best interest, as mentioned. And I think about our future selves. You look 10 to 20 years down the road and you picture you're amazing. You can see it right away. And typically, those inner circle, the people within that inner circle are helping you move towards it. They're establishing those proper habits and goals and perseverance that you absorb from that. But if you have a relationship dynamic that changes, that is starting to detract from your goal of reaching your future self, then why would you continue to let those negativity dynamics pull you down with the ship? Those are tough decisions to make, but necessary. This is a critical part of this inner circle, and you cannot leave those stale relationships to linger. Now, with regards to this change, I leave you with a quote by Benjamin Franklin, who said, "Be careful of the friends you choose. Be even careful when you're changing a friend." Now, we're going to move on to arguably probably the most important part of tonight's meeting, and that's our constructive criticism, the evaluation portion, where we learn how to improve our skills, receive real-time feedback that we can apply out in the real world. We sweat in practice so we don't bleed in battle. And to lead us in that effort, please help me welcome an officer of Queen City, our serving treasurer, very veteran Toastmaster Jamie Richards.
Thank you, Toastmaster John. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I will be your general evaluator this evening. There's a quote that says, "To avoid criticism, do nothing, say nothing, be nothing." To avoid criticism, do nothing, say nothing, be nothing. But that's not why we're here. We're here because we have something to say and we want to be something. And that's what the evaluation portion of the meeting is all about. So I will introduce momentarily our individual evaluator, Toastmaster Andrea, to deliver feedback on Colin's speech. Then I'll give some overall remarks on our meeting this evening. And then I will invite back our timer and our grammarian for their reports. So first, join me in welcoming Toastmaster Andrea for our individual evaluation.
Toastmaster. I am here to do an evaluation of our esteemed Toastmaster Colin Steffer. Colin, like they said, you've come up several times and you've given some dynamic speeches. And I thought about Les Brown saying, practice makes preparation. You're prepared and you come up here prepared. And so that stuck out the most in your speeches. I think you have the most dynamic way of being able to present a topic that nobody really wants to talk about, or they're uncomfortable with talking about, and you make it palatable and digestible. Which kind of goes with how to poop like a champion. I had to do it. I'm sorry. So your speech, it was talking about our most inner sanctuary, the golden throne, or what I call my second office. It's the place where I go to think. And you told us basically your call to action was to think before you act, because what you do affects not just you, but everyone you care about. And the first thing I wanted to talk about was the title. The title of this speech was so dynamic, it made me want to be your evaluator. There was 3 reasons. It made me curious and think. It made me want to listen, and it kept me intrigued because I want to see how you titled a boat. Now, knowing you, I didn't have to use discernment to figure out what the speech was about because I know he's my favorite water department worker. So I know he's going to talk about something about the water department. So I kind of knew where you were going, but it still made me intrigued enough to listen. Not just because I was your evaluator, because you do great speech, excellent speeches. And so my discernment didn't play too much of a factor there. You zoned us in on 3 key points. Very good. You organized this speech so well that we were able to follow you like a champion. We were able to understand why wastewater was so important because it was about our health and the health of those around us. And then it was the wastewater treatment. How is it done? Like it or dislike it, the water goes back and forth. The water has to be treated. The water has to be treated well. And because we are living in the modern times, we get to see and reap the benefits of that. And why is it so important? Because we want to be champions for each other, which we were just talking about, coming together and coming on the similar grounds and understanding that what you do and what I do is all it affects each other. And that was very good. I'm not going to go into all the things about your speech because I think everybody kind of got the message. But it was just sort of telling us to use our discernment could push us back to a time where we would increase unhealthy conditions. And after coming out of a pandemic, I think we're all aware of what that means. So we will do better and we will poop like champions. Now, if there was one thing that I could tell you to improve your speech, because you used great eye contact, you used the space well, you had great hand gestures, it was well organized, it would say, leave us with a call to action, give us something visual. So give us something visual to support your theory of don't use flushable wipes. Show us, you told us about how it impacts the pipes, but show us. I do like show and tell, so I think that would just beef up the speech a little more. And with that, I will continue to poop like a champion. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Andrea. Great feedback again for all of you joining as guests. This is exactly why we're here, is to get really rich examples of the things that we did well, the things we can do better. I definitely encourage all of you who've spoken tonight, go and watch the recording. There's nothing better than getting that real-time feedback as well. We're getting a little long, so I'm going to try to move through my comments really quickly. So things that we did well. Elvis, great job pinch hitting tonight. I know it was a little rough to get all the AV stuff up, but as always, we had a great meeting. So thank you for all the work, as well as others who helped us set up. Toastmaster Day, always fantastic. Thank you. Great theme. Really enjoyed reflecting a little bit on some of the questions that we should be asking ourselves about the folks that we keep company. And you had some really nice devices throughout, as well as the 3 objectives. I think all of us absolutely took those home as lessons to learn. Jackie, fantastic job on our inspirational speech today. I think that was your first time doing it, so congratulations on stepping up. I encourage some of our new members to continue to push yourselves to take on new roles as well. Our table topics was a heavy topic, Bill, but I actually love that you challenged our membership a little bit and asked us to not only think on our feet, but think in ways that asked us to draw on emotions maybe a little bit differently than just some of the more lighthearted questions we get in table topics. So I think it was cool to do something a little different. The last one was maybe a little tough, but in general, congratulations to all of our table topics speakers, especially our guests, for coming up and volunteering. things we could do better, always enunciate a little bit louder. This room is really loud with a lot of ambient noise. So for the folks in the back, whenever you're up here, just try to speak a little bit louder. With that, I will invite back our timer for the timer's report, Sebastian.
All right, I'll keep it pretty quick here. Everyone did a really good job. I think it was about 90% of us stayed within the allotted time. Colin, with our only speech, you clocked in a little bit long at 9:05, but I might have done a bit of a disservice there by starting you a little bit early, but I probably could have listened to that for like 20 minutes. Genuinely, it was interesting. All of our table topics, for the sake of time, won't run through everyone's name, but everyone stayed under 2 minutes. So good job to everybody. And then lastly, our evaluator, Andrea, just a little bit long at 3:55, but overall, thought it was great feedback. So that is the timers report for today.
Thank you, Sebastian. Sebastian's also taking on a role for the first time, so awesome. Now we'll invite back our grammarian, Elvis, who I applaud your discernment in selecting such a challenging word of the day. With that, you can deliver our grammarian's report.
Well, you got it at the end. So we all did a very good job. It was very clean overall. There were a few uses of the word of the day. Bill, you were one of them. Andrea, you did it a couple of times, and our general evaluator did it at the end. You got it. As I said, mostly everybody was clean, but I would like to point out just a few of you who might want to work on filler words, just a few of them, not very noticeable, but Natalia, a few Dio, couple of so Martin, couple of Julie, very clean. Leon, completely clean. Jackie, couple of General evaluator Jamie, very clean. Andrea, overall clean, but you had a couple of a couple of Our Toastmaster of the day, very clean. Sebastian, very clean. Our inspirational Jackie I just mentioned. And everybody else did a great job. Some of the expressions that stuck with me today were: you are the function of the 3 or 4 people you surround yourself with. So choose your associations wisely. Understand the sense of identity to help the ones around you. To avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. We want to be champions for each other. With that, our grammar report, and back to your general evaluator.
Thank you, Elvis. And I will hand it right back to our Toastmaster of the evening to bring us home.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Toastmaster Jamie, for excellent evaluation. We run a little bit late. I hope we made it useful, that you have something you can take away from this meeting, something to remember, something that we can leave with impact. That is the goal. And with all this discussion about inner circles and choosing the right people to make your starting lineup, as I like to call it, I leave you with one plug. Look no further than this room right here. There are plenty of alpha people that if you mentioned wanting to meet new people, there are plenty of people in here worth meeting. So keep coming back, and I hope to see everyone else as future Toastmasters rather than just guests. Thank you for your time tonight. I will turn it back to Elvis, our presiding officer.
Please help me with another round of applause for our Toastmaster of the day. Excellent, excellent job. And now, just to close off, I would like to get back to our guests. So one more time, I would like to call upon our VP of Membership to help us with one question for our guests. Just your general thoughts about the meeting tonight.
Thank you very much, Elvis. We'll go in reverse order this time.
What am I supposed to be doing? Oh, yeah, I think this was so amazing. Oh my God. I've been smiling the whole night. I think this is exactly what I needed for my own like self-development and my dreams and aspirations. And so I look forward to coming back and being a part of this vibe.
Yeah, likewise. I thoroughly enjoyed the meeting. But I did love that the table topics involved the guests. Colin, I am a nurse. I am thoroughly disgusted by his speech, but I'm sorry, Colin. But it was interesting. I learned something really new tonight. So thank you.
Everybody. Yeah, I thought this was great. This is my first time coming tonight. We'll definitely be back. One thing I really took away that I appreciated from everybody that spoke tonight was, you all did a great job of painting a clear picture and triggering an emotional response and sharing your emotional response, which I think when giving a pitch, when sharing a story, it only strengthens your content, your argument, and everything forward. So I thought that was great and definitely something I'm going to implement. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, everybody. I had a great time. It was really fun to watch, and I have a lot of questions, so I'm gonna probably pick your brain about them. But it was awesome. Thanks so much.
I really enjoyed being here tonight. I'll definitely come back. I felt like I answered every question in my head, but the last question, I just really want to tip my hat to you because that was a very hard question. And I think you did an excellent job just trying to get through it, but I enjoyed it.
Jamie Martin's paid up, so he's spared from the member debrief this time.
Tonight, I enjoyed tonight's meeting. I enjoyed your speech. I learned a lot. It was funny and entertaining and kept me interested. Also, kudos to you for attempting to answer that question. Yeah. But yeah, that's it.
This is my first time, and it's exactly what I was expecting. Challenging. The topics are also challenging and thought-provoking on every level, whether it's inner circle or 9/11 or being mindful what your life really is consist of, nobody thinking about wastewater. So that's really exciting to me because I challenge myself that I want to do something scary every single day. So that was scary to me. So I'm excited and I'm going to be back.
Thanks for having me. Sorry, I said but I really enjoy the tabletop discussions. I applaud everybody who got up there. I cannot think on my feet and tell a 2-minute speech that easily. So that was very impressive to me and gives me a goal for future. And it seems like a safe space, and I really appreciate that. So it's a good environment to practice in. I'm looking forward to next time.
I'll echo what you said about the tabletops. That's super impressive to me to be able to just riff for 2 minutes on a random topic. I was tempted to try to tackle yours. I'm not planning on running for president though, so yeah, really enjoyed it and definitely be back.
All right, thank you all for coming out. Guests are welcome back anytime, as much as you like. There's no obligation to join. However, we would love to talk to you about the membership benefits of joining. So in due time, but please come back and visit us again.
Thank you for calling. As he said, if you have any questions, you can stick around after the meeting and they will be able to help with any questions that you may have. And I would like to invite all of the members to sign up for roles for next meeting. The agendas are open until the end of September. So please go ahead, sign in and sign up for roles for the next meetings. That's what we are all here about, right? So please do that so that we can come next week with our roles already filled up. If there's no other announcements, then I would like to call this meeting to a close. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next.